What's up guys, Genesis King here, and in today's video, I'll be providing you with a quick guide for destroyer ship designs in Stellaris. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing down below for more Stellaris content. With that, let's dive right in. Okay, so the first design that we are going to look at today is for the early to mid game. So just to start out with, we've got 1 medium weapon slot and 4 small weapon slots. The reason we want to go with the medium weapon, if we click into it here and look at the various weapon types, is that when you go from a medium, and you do have the option to run a large, when you go from the medium to the large weapon size, the tracking ability drops from 30% down to 5%. So early in the game, you will be basically exclusively facing destroyers and other corvettes. So you're only hurting yourself if you run the large weapon. Because that tracking is so much lower, you will have a lot of misses, so you want to make sure you stick with the medium and obviously the small to go with it. In addition to that, especially early and a little bit into the mid game, I do like to keep my ship designs as far as weapons and defenses down here with armor and shields. I like to keep them a little bit balanced, so if I'm running the medium, I'll run 2 of one type and 3 of the other, just so that we can keep shield and armor damage bonuses and negatives relatively balanced out. Not perfectly, but relatively balanced out. And same down here with your armor and your shields. Next on the list is going to be our point defense design. So just as a general rule of thumb, I like to keep point defense in my fleets at all times, regardless of if I know I'm going up against missiles and or fighter craft. So this design here is good from mid-game, early game even really, all the way through to the end game. Generally speaking, I like to keep most of my point defense for my fleets at the destroyer level, so as to free up more heavy weapon slots for my larger ships. If you are specifically fighting against a fallen empire or anything along those lines, you'll want to swap out your sentinel point defense or barrier or guardian for one of the 3 levels of flak batteries. Flak batteries are better against fighters than are the point defense. The point defense is definitely better against missiles. So depending what you're fighting against or what you know the composition of the enemy fleet is, you're going to want to pick and choose which of these that select. As far as your small weapon slots here, I generally will mix and match. Sometimes I go balanced. Once you get mid-late game, sometimes I'll maybe go plasma or anything along those lines, disruptors, just something to mix up and give a little bit of armor pen and or extra armor or shield damage from my destroyers. And the last design that we are going to talk about today is the late game design. So when you get into the late game and you've got your battleships and you've got your titans on the field, you need something that's got a little bit of oomph to it, to at least deal some damage before the smaller ship, that is the destroyer, gets knocked out of battle. And this is the design to do it. Up here we are running the artillery bow and the gunship stern, so we have a large weapon slot and a medium. As I said earlier, for the early to mid-game design where you wanted to avoid the large, here you want the large so that you can hit larger ships and deal damage. In this large shot here, I would suggest either neutron launchers or kinetic artillery, depending on what you're facing. As you can see, the neutron launchers have a negative 50% shield damage modifier, whereas the kinetic artillery has a negative 50% armor damage modifier. So, as always, specializing these weapons is what you want to do. And then for the gunship stern medium, again, pick whatever you need to deal the kind of damage that you need. And the important thing over here on the right side with thrusters and sensors, or your combat computers, you want to switch this over to line rather than picket. At picket, you sit at about 30, but for these, you want to sit at about 50. Unfortunately, you can't switch all the way to artillery because they will stay at a range of 80. And the medium weapons here, as you can see, only have a range of 75. So you'll have to go with the line for your combat computer. And as I said earlier, this design it deals out damage before it gets destroyed, and oftentimes this evasion can be pretty good for survivability if you're fighting a fleet that has exclusively large ships. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Stellaris content. With that, I will talk to you guys in the next video. Later, everybody.